Trustees meeting for Wednesday, July 17, 2013. I would ask that Trustee Teasdale do the roll call.
Sure. Trustee Kilgore? Present. Trustee Verma, absent, excuse. Trustee Margolis? Present. Trustee Mena?
Present.
Trustee Stirring?
Present.
Trustee Teasdale? Present. Trustee Checkeye will be arriving a little late. Student Representative Yang? Student Representative Matthew? If we could all rise for the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like for us to take a look at the agenda. If we have any comments on the agenda.
Move to accept.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Hearing none, the agenda as presented has been approved unanimously. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Trustee Margolis.
Yeah, I just have a question under the warrants. Toward the bottom on page 4, there's a credit item for $1,150 to the Novi schools. I don't know if it's that a voided check or a return. Or how is that a negative warrant?
They gave us a check as payment towards printing costs for the summer reading
Great.
program brochure.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions in regard to the consent agenda? I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda then.
Motion to approve?
It's been motioned to approve and seconded. Without any further discussion, all in favor of approving the consent agenda? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? The consent agenda as presented is unanimously approved. Correspondence. Mary, Margie?
Just that there was a thank you from a group who held an event in our parking lot on a day that we were closed, and they were just grateful that they could use the space.
Okay. That's the extent of our correspondence for the month?
I believe so.
Okay. I believe we have no presentations planned for this evening.
Correct.
Moving on to item 7 in our agenda is a public comment. This is an opportunity for anybody in the public to make comment to the library board. If you're present, would like to make a comment, question, please go to the podium. Seeing nobody going to the podium, we're going to move on past public comment. And item number 8, the President's report. I'll note that the new goals document incorporating the strategic objectives and library goals for 2013-2014 will be presented at our August meeting. I know that right now the library departments are taking the month of July following the board's goal-setting session to assign responsibilities and review the strategic plan. Anything that Margie or Mary want to add to that?
That's exactly what we're doing. We're tackling your goals, adding them to our goals, and then we will put it in writing and present it back.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Treasurer's report. Trustee Checkeye, turn it over to you.
Chairman, page 15 and 16 is the budget, kind of a little historical and future. It doesn't change for the most part. It's what we start off our presentation on a monthly basis. We have not received, as of tonight's meeting, I do not believe, any of the financial statements. So I'd like to defer that Treasury's report until the August meeting.
Okay.
My only follow-up is, as we mentioned at the last meeting, we will still need a contribution from our fund balance, but we're doing better than planned, and we were tracking that way unless there was some extraordinary items or issues that took place. And given the correspondence or the lack of correspondence that I've received over the course of the last 30 days, I don't believe there has been any, so I think we should be pretty consistent to where we thought we'd be as we discussed at the last meeting.
Thank you. Any questions? questions or comments regarding the treasurer's report? We're moving along pretty fast tonight. Director's report.
Mary Ellen and I will be sharing that and just pointing out some of the things in Julie's report. We are here representing Julie for this evening, but I hope that you've all had a chance to come into our local history room and see the beautiful new glass etchings that are on the window panels, or window panes, I should say. There is an article in here on page 47 that will go into it a little bit more, but there were 6 panels that were etched, historical panels that were recreated: train station, the Methodist Church, our Novi Special, the Bassett Home, Novi Town Hall, and the Walled Lake Park, and they are beautiful, a true enhancement, something we're very proud to share with our community. So those are the historical glass etchings. There was a unveiling of it because everything had to be removed from the local history room so that they could do this without damaging the contents of it. So everything was completed, and we had an unveiling on Thursday, June 27th, and it is awesome.
Also from Julie's report, as you mentioned, we are working on the new goals document incorporating the strategic objectives, and we'll be adding in the goals from the staff, working on departmental goals and personal goals, and seeing where those fit and what we can do to create tactics to achieve those strategic objectives and the goals. Also, you've seen in your packet that Julie is proposing some policy revisions, and those will come later in the agenda.
And I'm going to just drop down a little bit to a partnership that we have with Macy's called Shop for a Cause. We did this last year and earned $300. It's a pretty easy way for us to add some additional funds. We are doing that again. All people have to do is come in. Many of us have little labels that we're saying Shop for a Cause. Hopefully they ask, why are we wearing that? And all they need to do is purchase for $5 a coupon that is good for Saturday, August 24th, and that will entitle them to 25% off at Macy's for that day only. And we're trying something new. We're going to have a story time at Macy's during the day to try to also encourage people to come. So we'll report back and hopefully get more than $300 for the library. And those were the highlights that we selected to share with you tonight.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Trustee Margolis.
Yeah, I don't have a question. I just have a comment. I want to offer my kudos to the idea of reinforcing the hour change by producing magnets that people can affix and be reminded of. I think it was very clever, so pass that along.
Happy to.
Very good idea, very good.
We have been notifying our patrons for more than a month. So we do have a sandwich board outside and lots of information in the library, and of course just verbally telling them that this is about to happen.
Okay. Any other comments? Any other questions? Okay. Moving on to item number 11 then, any additional reports in regard to public service or building or library usage statistics?
I will be happy to move on to the public service, which is on page 27. I'll just highlight a few things on that page. Obviously, you know we're in the midst of our summer reading program, which is going very well. Every year I say, wow, this has got to be the best, and then the following year it gets even better. So it's amazing, but it's fabulous. I'm thrilled to report that to you. We have about 1,800 people that have signed up for the summer reading, and almost 300 of those are adults. So not only are we getting our community starting from birth all the way up to high school and beyond, but we've tried to challenge our adult patrons to join us in a summer reading program because We strongly feel that not only do our words share things with our children, but having them see us read is even more than words can be. So we have a summer reading program for adults, and like I said, almost 300 have signed up. So they're excited and they get prizes too. So you don't have to just be a kid to get prizes. So that was one thing. We have been partnering with the city for these tremendous Tuesdays that occur 8 Tuesdays in the summer, where we bring entertainers, and we are doing that outside at the amphitheater by the town hall. And we have been averaging about 400 people each Tuesday morning. Now, last Tuesday, it was decided we were going to do it outside. I don't know if you remember what Tuesday was like, but we did have a heat advisory starting at noon, but this was at 10:30. And obviously, we can get more people outside than we can. The backup is in our library's meeting room, and I can only get 200 in there. So we only had about 200 that day, but at least they still came. So that was fabulous. We're also partnering this year, as always, with our schools, and that was that question that you had, Trustee Margolis. We have been working very hard with the schools each year, and so now we are totally partnering where they encourage our summer reading program to their kids, and we do book chats with the teachers or the librarians from the schools. So they, as a result of this partnering, chose to pay half of the fees for our printing for the summer reading brochures. And then the last thing that everyone is looking forward to, besides just read, 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 is a Paradise Park finale that's coming up for all the kids who have participated in the summer reading and completed it. Paradise Park partners with us, and we get 2 to 3 hours of free enjoyment of Paradise Park. So they've been fabulous. So that was one thing that's been taking a lot of our time, and we're thrilled about. The other thing was that GEEK program, What Do You Geek? We had done that for 1 year. We completed it the first part of June, and we're going to use that data to help us find out what our community would like us to see in programming, what their interests are, what they do when they have some free time, what do they geek. So we're taking all that information, and that will help us for our future programming. And you'll see we try very hard to offer as much diversity as we can through the programs, be educational, business-oriented, computer-oriented, but this North Oakland Dixieland Band, we've had some morning art series that our friends are helping us sponsor and fund, and that's on a Thursday at 11. We've done 4 of them this past year, and we invite not only our normal patrons that come, but we have extended it outreach to some of the senior facilities in town. So we have about 4 areas that bring busloads of people to the library that normally cannot get there. So those are really wonderful. And another one that we had that was, I thought, terribly enjoyable was a photographic journey of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. There was a gentleman who was the artist in residence there, and he has been here in Novi for just a year, and he came to the library and offered his services, and it was beautiful. Obviously, a great photographer that shared his 6 weeks at the Great Smoky Mountains. So just a few things beyond, and obviously I always am open to any suggestions that you have of programming that you think would be great or you've seen somewhere else that we can also bring to the Novi Library.
Trustee Margolis.
You made a comment that the amphitheater provides you greater access to providing a larger programming opportunity. You said you were limited to 200 bodies in the meeting room. Is there a concern, or I don't think concern is the right word, that the success of the programs that you're offering are attracting sufficient patrons that we have potential logistic issues that we should be addressing?
So if I'm understanding you, that I should have a larger space for.
If it's needed, we need to be aware of it.
Well,
And
what,
then-
what we have done to combat that wonderful problem is that when we need to do it inside, rather than just offering one program, we would offer two. So that's how we've tried to address it.
So right now, there aren't imposing physical constraints that inhibit your ability to provide these quality programs, right?
Obviously, it would be wonderful to have a larger meeting room. I'm not anticipating that happening right away, but it's good to dream. And so until that happens, we're just adapting, and like I said, just offering more programs the same. So in other words,
But if you had your druthers, you'd prefer to have more space.
absolutely.
Okay.
Just to add a couple comments, I think kind of ties into your public services report. The two very nice articles that were in the Novi News, the one indicating that over 1,000 people registered in the first week for the summer reading program. And then there was also a very nice article by Stephen Matthews from Novi Schools indicating summer's a wonderful time to read and all the wonderful opportunities at the Novi Public Library
Right.
during the summer. But,
Dr. Matthews and his entire administrative team, and really all of the staff through the Novi School District are wonderful to work with. I don't know if any of you have had a chance to see the video, the DVD that Dr. Matthews and myself and a couple other staff people, April Stevenson from the library, but a couple other Novi School Districts. There's a clip from our main page. It'll say, "Don't miss this video." So Dr. Matthews helped me. He actually drove the excavator and dug down to get the treasure for our Dig Into Reading. So we have a very good relationship, and he's extremely supportive. You know, he does the coffee with the superintendent twice a month, so he's just terrific. So thank you for mentioning that.
good. Any other comments, questions in regard to the public service report? Okay. Building operations?
Yes, just piggybacking a little bit on Margie's report about summer reading program, I just wanted to note that the success of the program keeps the staff extremely busy, and they are all doing a great job making sure that the materials flow, and when items get returned, and we get them back on the shelves as quickly as we can so they can go out again. And everybody's doing a really great job with that. I also wanted to mention the Read Box that you heard about last month. It was unveiled at Lakeshore Park. Our outreach team fills that every week, and in fact, this week, there were only 4 items left in it when they went to refill it. There's also a nice article about that in the back of the packet from the Novi News. So it's popular with adults and children. We're putting both types of materials in there. Besides promoting the new hours that are coming up in September, we're also continuing to inform people about the requirement to have their library card with them to check out, and for other services, placing holds and so on. And people seem to be they're reacting favorably. Also, sort of in conjunction with that, we are beginning to see more people presenting their library cards on their smartphones or other electronic devices. So that's, another convenient way to have your card available. I wanted to mention that over the last fiscal year, we added nearly 1,100 donated items to the library, saving us about $11,800 was the value of those materials. So that's money that we did not have to spend and could spend on other new materials. So that's a real boon to the library to receive these donations. And even if it's something that we can't immediately use in our collection, we can pass it on to the Friends of the Library, who in turn provide our support. You we're aware that we had a few, one tree and some plants that needed to be replaced. We were working with our landscaping company. Those have been replaced. There's another article from the Novi News in the back of the packet about our cafe, highlighting Gary and saying a lot of nice things about our cafe. I also wanted to update you a little bit about the building closure that we had on Monday with our air conditioning problems. Barb and working with the contractor, they were able to get the system running again in the afternoon, and they determined that the problem was with some of the filters being dirty, and we have a temporary fix for that. Also, I just wanted to note, though, that there are two different kinds of filters, just sort of standard filters, and our staff replaces those on a quarterly basis. Those were not the problem. The problem were the extended surface filters that last a lot longer, but they were not allowing the airflow, and so the chiller couldn't keep going. So that's all under control now. Unfortunately, I mean, it's unfortunate that we had to close, but the building was too hot for staff and public. And fortunately, it was not an extended closure, so. I also just wanted to point out just a few usage statistics. In the month of June, we issued 469 new library cards and checked out 68,149 items. And our self-checkout, the percentage of total circulation done on the self-checks was nearly 60, well, almost 59%. And our daily average of visitors was 1,248. And I think you'll see next month that most of those figures will be higher, just based on the summer reading. And that's all I have to point out, unless you have questions for me.
Trustee Mena, has a question or comment?
Back to the air conditioning issue, I'm still a little bit confused. These filters that you were talking about, are those maintenance type items that we can't change, that our staff can't change, but somebody else has to change?
Yes, our staff changes the smaller ones,
Right.
but the ones that are inside, well, actually, they may all be inside. Barb is more familiar with this than I am, but they are a larger item and they are intended to last a lot longer, these extended surface filters. We do work with a contractor to do quarterly checks, and as of May, we were told they were working, everything was working fine. So I'm not sure how much difference there could have been between, obviously there could be some between May and July, but we're having some more discussions about why we didn't know sooner that this was an issue.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Well, I mean, as long as, because I think your answer initially was you had some sort of a workaround, but I was kind of looking for long-term issues so we can keep this from possibly happening again. So I
Yes.
think the conversation is going to be had with the maintenance vendor to make sure that we probably look at the timeline for when those need to be cleaned or replaced.
Right,
or
they have
whatever
to, they will probably have to be replaced soon. They're not at all inexpensive. And so we're working on trying to clean them as a temporary measure.
Okay, thank you.
I was just gonna sort of make the same comment, but I think it's being addressed in terms of whether those, I'll call them the internal filters or the larger filters, have to be replaced at certain intervals that would go onto a timeline, or whether we should be, revisiting with our service company in terms of identifying them over. I know sometimes, like in our house filters, you can just kind of wash them off and stuff like that. I have no idea how these are done, whether they can be, really be cleaned with some type of washing, or they just have to be replaced at more regular, or even though maybe not quarterly like the other ones, but
Right.
at some type of a timeline where they're good for 2 years or 3 years or or whatever the case may be. But it sounds like you're addressing that, and I was pleased that, once the issue was discovered, the remedy soon fell into place, and I think the interruption, nobody likes an interruption, but it was relatively a minor interruption considering what it could have been. And so thank the staff for responding quickly to the situation.
Yes, especially Barb Rutkowski deserves a lot of credit for sticking with that and making sure that things were under control. And there were a few other hardy souls on the staff who stuck out the time in the building. And
With bathing suits, I hope.
I'm not sure it fits in the dress code.
Trustee Berman, looks like I had a question or comment.
I'm not clear about the two maintenance filters. You said one is done every quarter, 3 months.
Yes.
Now, do you keep that record, that somebody goes there and checks it and month of so-and-so, date so-and-so, filters are changed?
Yes, we have, through our help desk, we have a regular schedule that our staff follows. Every month they have a list of, which things need to be done, which week, and so on. And so, yes, they do track that. Those filters are replaced quarterly. And as I mentioned, those were not the issue. The others are part of a quarterly check by our heating and cooling vendor. And as I said, we did not receive any report. Our latest report was that everything had been checked and was working fine.
When the contractor comes to do maintenance of the HVAC system, does he give you any report that he came so-and-so day, he did this?
Yes, we're always aware when he's there, and he does give a report. He noted, we have a list of things that's part of the contract that they do check on a quarterly basis. There are a couple of things they do on an annual basis, but most things are done quarterly. Our report stated that, all of the mechanical things had been checked and that everything was working fine, and there were a couple of things that were replaced. I don't remember now if they were, belts or what they were, but none of the filters. And these larger filters aren't intended to be replaced as quickly as the others. The reports vary whether some places might replace them yearly, some might replace them every 3 years. As you know, ours are a little over 3 years old. So we're looking at what we need to do to make this do more than just have a temporary fix for it.
Chair, I would like to work with the staff. With my experience, I want to work with them and tell them how it is to be done, and I want to see what the contractor is doing, what others doing. I have done in the University of Michigan Medical Center and others, and with my experience, I would like to help them.
I think in terms of, Barb primarily takes care of that, right? I mean,
Yes.
that may be, if Ramesh and Barb just got together
Yes.
somehow to do that. I don't think we have to have a formal meeting or something.
No,
but
I
think
just want to
I
work
think
with her.
that's a good idea if you
Yes.
talked to Barb and
Sure.
gave some insights based on your experience and maybe, check the procedures and had some additional thoughts or whatever, because I think that's a great idea.
I will be happy to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Margolis.
Yeah, I have a question of the chair, not so much the assistant directors. It sounds like we've addressed the HVAC system issues as it relates to the ambient temperature. But my concern is if the root cause is filter issues, should we be concerned about doing any type of air quality analysis? Is that something that we as a board should consider maybe testing if there's dust or other particles that are blocking the filters from allowing the system to work properly? And we've got so many patrons attending the facility. I don't know that we know anecdotally whether the air quality is up to par or not. So I'm raising that question here. I don't know how you want to handle it, but I think it's worthy of a discussion.
I think it's a discussion. I really think that they're kind of, from what I understand, they're kind of unrelated issues in the sense that I do know from my experience that especially like during the spring and if the flowers are budding and stuff like that, that you just have certain days when all that's in the air, even like my home air conditioner, it can be working one day and almost be completely plugged up, you know, a week or so later and they have to be cleaned off and washed off. So I think in terms of activating the chiller, because what happens if air can't get through those filters? The chiller just doesn't work. I mean,
Right.
it's as simple as if air doesn't get there, it can't do the exchange. So I think the situation, as I understand it, air wasn't getting through the filters and the chiller wasn't working.
Correct.
It wasn't that it was bad air, so to speak, or that it was I mean, to some degree.
And I'm not
they're-
implying that it is, but it does beg the question, it's now been several years since we've occupied the building. When was the last time all the vents were cleaned out professionally? And do we have an idea what the air quality is in the building? And is that something that we should approach the staff as maybe an operational issue?
That's the one I want to see, that what is their maintenance role is, who does what. That's what I want to see that. Because I think the contractor comes, he doesn't come, he gives a report, he doesn't give a report. Who sees those type of report? But this is a very important thing to go, because we have to see whether they go and oil the thing, pumps and other thing, how regularly they come and do that type of thing. Sometimes contractor may not come, because I feel this is a contractor issue. He has not done the job there, and that's what it happens. Internal thing, our staff did it, but that particular filter, he should have done it, he didn't do that.
And again, the issue is being addressed, and you volunteered your service, and that's wonderful. But my concern here, and the reason I'm bringing this up for conversation, is the air quality impacting the patrons in the building. And I just don't want to assume everything's fine. Maybe it is, but I don't know that. And is it worth spending a few dollars to find out, or to clean the entire vent system once a year or once every couple of years? Is that something that should be part of our purview? That's all I'm issuing.
That's just mentioned, there's a maintenance, 6 months, 3 months, 1 year. I just want to see that who does and whether somebody supervises or not that. That's what, I mean, I understand what you're trying to say. This is what I want to see, that reports of that.
I guess I'm not sure if making sure the system is oiled and the filters are replaced and stuff is the same thing as an air quality check. It may be, I don't know if it is. And I think you're asking about how often should we be doing, in essence, air quality checks. I don't have any idea what the norm is. I don't think they're done that often, or maybe they're done if there seems to be a problem. But I don't normally think of that as kind of on an air quality check as something a service person would do on a quarterly or annual basis. They got to make sure the system is running, but I don't think they do readings within the type of air. They just make sure the system's working.
That is, the contract that we have is really dealing more with the mechanical issues. It's not dealing with the air quality. We can certainly look into something like that. Off the top of my head, I have no idea, you know, how often that should be done or how expensive it is or anything like that, but we can investigate. And as for the contractor, we do track, they do come quarterly and they check on these things, and we do always get a report. It's not, you know, an extensive report, and perhaps we should be getting a little more detail in the reports, but we'll see what we can do about having you talk with Barb too.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Beyond that, do you want to suggest it goes to like the building committee if it's being talked about at staff? Do you want to bring it to like a committee level at the board? Or are you suggesting that, or at this point let the staff investigate the air quality issue?
I guess what I'm
If you have a
suggesting
suggestion.
is I want to raise the level of conversation, number one. Number two, the staff already is inhibited budgetary constraints because we create deficit budgets. So if this is an extraordinary thing, I think the initiative needs to come from the board level to the staff, just to reaffirm to our patrons that we share their concerns about providing a safe environment. Not that I'm trying to imply that it's unsafe. I just don't know. And it just begged the question, if your filters are getting clogged, maybe more so than they should, maybe that's a good opportunity to investigate. Where you want to take it, you want to refer it to committee or whatever, I'm not making a motion, I'm just broaching the topic.
I think that I'm comfortable leaving it with staff at this time to, think about it, play around with it, and, maybe depending on what staff has to say, we can elevate it to a committee level, but for now, we'll leave it at staff, okay? Did I see your hand there, trustee Checkeye?
On the topic of the maintenance with Member Irma working with staff, may I suggest that we get a written report maybe for the September board package detailing what actually took place with the mechanical system 2 days ago, but also to incorporate what thoughts and observations Member Verma has come up with you folks as he's looked at the entire process. Not August, but the September one. That gives you some time to put something together.
Just a thought, I don't mean to put you on the spot, trustee, but do you recall from your past history experiences in terms of air quality checks on any type of, a periodic basis or something in your previous work experience?
To me, air quality is good at the library because nobody has questioned that they are having some obnoxious things coming or whatever. The only thing is coming is that my experience with the maintenance people is they send it on the right paper. Oh yeah, I did this, but actually they have not done it. Now my point, because when I was the supervisor, I used to go and check it. Then I will sign it there that yes, I checked it. Because I don't believe these guys come there and do everything which they are supposed to do. How it come, if they were supposed to do it, that filter to be changed, they should have done it. Why they didn't do it? That's what we want to find out. But if the paper comes on the table and nobody goes there to check that, our supervisor or the library person, then how do we assure that they have done the job? We should not be believing this, the paper comes on the table by the contractor that he has done it. We should be checking ourselves. That's what I believe in.
I think that's good. Let's do that. Trustee Checkeye.
Just another comment that was made. Regarding the landscaping, the replacements have been put,
Today,
oh, today, okay. So
Yes.
that one tree that you could see off the Wildcat Drive, that was included?
yes.
Okay, and also, you mentioned the horsetail weed. There is a professional plan in place?
Yes.
And the remediation action being taken?
Yes, I'm not sure if they have taken the first step yet, but we have made the plan. We've, contracted to have it done. I'll have to check to see if any of it's to be a 2-treatment plan. Apparently, as you were aware, or made us aware, it's a pretty nasty weed and requires, we have weeding done on the grounds on a regular basis, but this type apparently requires special treatment. They have to sponge it and spray it.
Yeah, it came up at at about the time of the last meeting when
Yes.
Great Oaks was visiting with you folks, and I think in their report to the library staff was that they had noticed that this horsetail weed was starting, or they found evidence of it in the front berm, and they just reiterated strongly that it is a very difficult weed to remove once it gets started. It's not a casual removal process.
Right.
It really requires.
But the tall
somebody going
grass
with
will
an-
hide it, so what are you worried about?
Oh, no, actually it says that the tall grass will flourish if we let this weed run rampant.
So we need more
So anyways, I just wanted to make sure that it was, that I brought it up at least to the board, but they've indicated that to get on it, quickly with, not homemade remedies per se, or not
Right.
just a casual weeding process. It really
Right.
required somebody's direct attention, so.
Yes,
They said
and,
once you get it in there, it's very difficult, if at all, to get it, to remove it once it spreads, so.
yeah, and how we got it, who knows, but, we did, we took that into consideration and contracted with the landscaper right away to take care of it.
Great, okay, thank
I'm
you.
not sure how long the process actually is, but it's in
someone's
place.
on it, you guys.
Yes, thank you.
And I knew you were, I just didn't know what the timeline was, so, okay. Thank you.
Any comments, questions in regard to the additional reports? If not, are the Friends have a report tonight, or somebody reporting for the Friends?
I'll just add a couple comments. You'll see in the packet that they included their revision of their bylaws. A couple things that came out at their last meeting after they approved their yearly budget is they did award their scholarship, and they have in the past offered a $2,000 scholarship to a Novi resident in a public school. And this year, or for the upcoming fiscal year, they have voted on offering a $1,000 scholarship and the other $1,000 to help the library offer 2 intern positions. I know you're aware that this year, the 2 wonderful ladies to the right of me, Jessica and Z, are our interns. We applied for a grant from Dollar General to offer this program, and that is what is underwriting their internship. And the Friends have decided to take it on for us for next year and hopefully forever. So that was something new that was proposed, and they voted unanimously for it. So I just wanted to share how really fabulous they are to the library. And other than that, there really wasn't much in their last meeting out of the ordinary, unless you have a question.
Any questions? Trustee Checkeye, Friends.
General question regarding the Friends.
Yes.
How difficult, or how easy is it, rather, to gather some information on Friends of the library and other communities? The reason I ask is it just seems that our Friends are extremely active and extremely generous, not on a one-time basis. They just seem to continuously provide a high degree of generosity that, at least to me, I'm not so sure if that's something that's the norm amongst Friends groups and other communities, or they are, on the extraordinary side of things. And I'm just curious, from a recognition standpoint, how difficult would that be to kind of gather some information on what other Friends do?
Not difficult at all. There is a Michigan Friends Association, and I know that our Friends attend this. They have a yearly meeting, but it's very easy. And I know that they keep in touch with kind of our general area, the Friends. I know they talk with the Northville Friends a lot. I know I'm very biased, but I think our group is fabulous. They're very keyed into us. They are all library users, so they see what we need, and they know that when we ask something or we put it on our wish list, it's something that would benefit, this community that they support so greatly. But if you're interested, I'd be happy to look into that, and I'm sure I can get some of the Friends. We have someone actually, it was just newly appointed. Her name is Gail Ford. She's a librarian, and she was at West Bloomfield for many years, and then she was at Milford. And now she is retired, but she's on the board of the Friends. So there's two areas that I can, just ask her what the Friends are like. So a lot of it, depends on the size of your community. I can tell you that the Ann Arbor District Library has a wonderful, very supportive Friends group, but that's a huge population, so what they can give to the library is much more than ours. But for our population and their devotion and generosity, I think they're fabulous, and they're great listeners. So, but I will take that a step further and let you know.
Yeah, thank you. I find myself shaking my head in amazement more times than not as to what they're able to do and what they've been able to amass from a resource standpoint.
Yeah,
It's
I agree.
Quite impressive.
Thank you.
Anything else regarding Friends? If not, student representative report.
All right. So June started off very busy with our 2 teen volunteer orientations, which those were for the teens to get better acquainted with the program we use to sign up people. And so that was really good with 45 participants for both. And we'd like to give a big thank you for the teens because we've had like over 100 teens to volunteer, and without them the program would be impossible to run. So a big thank you to all of them. And then programs, we had our annual tie-dye day, and this was, we do this every year, and it was a great kickstart, and we had about 100 teens come. And then we had a glass mosaic madness program, and it was a huge success with 50 attendants, and the kids learned how to like cut glass and like put it into like a little pendant and make it into like a keychain or a necklace or something, and it was good.
You guys just heard about our internship, and it's running very smoothly. We are learning a lot of leadership qualities, and they're sure to be beneficial in the future, as well as little ins and outs that make the Novi Library the unique structure that it is. Our upcoming programs are the book chat on July 18th at 3 p.m. The other 2 have already passed.
Thank you. Any comments in regard to our student representative report? Questions? Thank you very much. Historical Commission report. I don't think it's, I don't have anything unless somebody else has anything.
I think it's in A.
No, any committee reports? Don't think I have anything on the committee reports. That moves us up to the second session for public comment. If there's anybody with public comment wants to approach the podium, can make questions or comments to the library board. I see none, so I'm going to move on to matters for board action. First matter for board action is policy P12, smoking in and on the library property.
Page 18.
Yeah, page 18. I'm slow in getting there tonight.
Would you like me to comment on
Yeah,
that at all?
why don't you comment? Is it the addition because of the e-cigarettes?
Yes. There's a minor change proposed in the title, just because it read a little better on library property rather than in library property. It's both in, on, but the main thing was to include e-cigarettes, and, you know, who knows what might be next, so that's why it says of smoking of any kind. So that's really the only change, is to specify that e-cigarettes are included in this no smoking policy.
Okay.
And in conjunction with that, if we are to change P12, then P11 would also need to be changed slightly to include it, just to, so that they go hand in hand. And that's number 9 in P11.
Okay.
So it just kind of lines up with what would be in the other one.
And those were the only 2 changes to those 2 policies,
Yes,
proposed policies, okay?
right.
Question of the chair?
Yes.
Is it your intention to address each policy individually or do them all collectively? How did you want to handle this?
Well, I think because of the fact that they're so related, it makes sense to address them together. Because we're either going to accept them in both or in neither, I think.
That's A and B, but what
Yeah.
about C and D? I mean, do you want to wait till we do all the policies?
I would do 11 and 12 together, it makes sense.
Then I would make a motion to accept the proposed revisions for policies 12 and 11 respectively, listed in line items A and B.
Support.
And it's been moved and supported to adopt policy 11 regarding rules of conduct and policy 12 regarding smoking in and on the library property. I'd like to open it up for discussion. And did you have a, go ahead.
All I was going to say, I know this is sort of first reading on this, but given the fact that the change is fairly minor, I would support making the change immediately.
I have one question, and that's a slightly different reading in P12 and P11, where it talks about, and it doesn't seem to be the change, but it says, in 2, City Ordinance Article V, Section 22-101 extends the no smoking prohibition to 100 feet from the entrance of all buildings. And then the point I have, question mark, is except as otherwise designated. And then if we go to P11, we don't have the except as otherwise designated. Now, I'll be honest, I'm not sure what except as otherwise designated could ever be. But I'm throwing that out for some discussion, as we do have it in P12, but we don't exactly have it in the proposed change in P11 under point 9. So I'm asking really for anybody's recollection as to why we maybe put in except as otherwise designated before. Trustee Kilgore seems to have a good recollection. Maybe you have another question, but I turn over to you, Trustee
I
Kilgore.
believe it's in policy P12 because it's referring to the city ordinance, and that is the exact language of the city ordinance, but it is not in policy P11 because the library has not, at any of its entrances, otherwise designated. So, it's not necessary there.
Subtle distinction.
Item 2 is really not a policy, it's just referring to what the city policy is.
Yes,
Likewise, we don't reference the library vehicles in.
yes. And in any event, we have not otherwise designated any of our,
So it's really not inconsistent, just my reading was a little bit, but
No,
it's
it's a
not.
good catch.
Yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense, okay. Okay, any other discussion before we vote? If not, all in favor of adopting, policy P12, smoking in and on library property, and policy P11, rules of conduct as presented tonight, say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Hearing none. The revisions presented in P11 and P12 have been approved tonight by this board unanimously.
And then did you want me to go on to the other two, or?
Well, the next one would be hours of operation, B3.
And it's also being addressed in B4, the only change being to the hours. And I don't think the copies that you have in your packet show the changes, but in the agenda, I believe Julie outlined those. It's really just because, well, as you know, you've already approved the change in hours, and changing the policy is just to formalize that. And in the meeting room policy, the hours are referred to because part of the policy is that the meeting rooms from rentals are to be vacated 15 minutes prior to closing. So on the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, when we are extending hours, we need to change it in there as well. So those are really the only changes being proposed in B3 and B4 to reflect the new hours.
I'll make a motion to approve policies, changes to policies B3 and B4 as presented.
And could I also suggest that it be effective in September when the hours are effective? Rather than immediately?
Yes.
It says that on the agenda. On the agenda, it reflects that, yes.
Yes, with the change to be effective September 3rd, 2013.
Still second.
Thank you.
Motion has been made to adopt changes in policy B3, hours of operation, and policy B4, meeting room rental rates and use policy, with the changes that are reflected on our agenda, which includes an effective date of September 3, 2013. Any discussion? Trustee Chekai.
Policy B3, wasn't that already approved? Did we already change the policy for the hours?
Well, I don't
At a
think the
prior meeting?
policy itself was changed.
No, but this board approved changing the hours effective September 3rd, so.
Correct.
I'm not so sure we need a approval of a policy that we've already approved. This is just,
I'm not sure we approved the change to the policy. I think that might have been in the context of our budget sessions for the year, and so we set aside funds to allow that to happen, but probably did not actually change the policy itself.
I thought we
Oh, I thought we
referred it to
did it
committee.
here.
I thought we referred it to committee, and this is what came out of it.
I thought at one point, at a prior meeting, we actually voted on it, but.
Not that I'm aware of. I think it's as trustee Kilgore mentioned, I
Okay.
believe.
Thank you. To your left.
Yes, trustee Mena.
Yeah, is there a reason, is this a typo, or is there a specific reason why we don't allow rental of the rooms on Sunday till 1 hour after opening? Because you
Oh,
said.
you know what? I think, unless, well, let me see if it's in the agenda that way, whether we, no, she does have it correct in the agenda, that it would start at 12.
Okay, so it's just a typo right now in my copy here, page.
Well, the actual policies that are in here
Are the existing
didn't,
ones?
yes, they are existing, so
I
they didn't
gotcha.
show the changes on either end of the spectrum
And
there.
is there really, I mean, I remember in the past when we were making policy changes, we were trying to get away from publishing things that would change a little bit more usual. I mean, is there any reason why we really have to hard write down the hours on this particular policy, when really all we're saying is we'll rent it from open till 15 minutes after, till 15 minutes before close? And not call out the hours, so that it's just one less policy that we'll have to change anytime we change hours?
It certainly could be done that way, yeah. I mean, that would be at your pleasure.
And then the same thing on B1, contact library administration Monday through Friday during normal business hours. And then we wouldn't have to touch that one as well.
Which one?
Well, actually, you're saying till 5 o'clock, so, okay, we probably should need to leave that one.
What's B1?
B1, we're talking about page 24 at this point.
As part of B4, policy B4, but number B1 within that policy is what trustee Mena is referring to.
So we can probably leave that as is then.
I would argue that it does make sense to change the policy, because you can hand out a separate policy document to anybody considering running the meeting without having to explain to them and then put the burden on them to remember what the hours are. It would be in whatever document that they may be taking back to their own board or authority to approve.
Okay, this is a maintenance issue, it's up to you guys. I'm just trying to cut down the amount of work that we have changing these going forward.
I have a question and a comment. I really don't think that we'll be changing the hours that often. I mean, there's an argument to say whenever a regular business hour, but I don't think we'll be changing hours that often. And secondly, I do understand that it's very easy for someone to pick up this policy if they're considering renting or something, and then they have it all there on one piece of paper. So I'm kind of in favor of changing the policy to match up to what we're doing, just because that's one piece of paper that gets handed out, and then the viewer knows what those hours are. I think if we did this a lot, I'd maybe lean the other way, but I don't think we're really changing our hours too often. Now,
We're changing them once a year.
I think we've only changed them once.
Right, but I'm just saying that right now, are we gonna keep the library open now Sundays year-round, right? The same
Correct.
hours, so.
But I think that's going to be a long-term
All right.
change. But I did have a question in policy. It's the one in, let me go back here, I forgot the name. It's B3, where we're advising the people in B1 and in D2 for information and reservations to contact us during administrative hours, Monday through Friday, 10 to 5. Now, is that supposed to be 10 to 5, even though we're going to be open like extra hours on those days too? Is that supposed to, is the intent for that to stay the same?
Yes,
Okay,
because, Monday through Thursday, we're open till 9, but
Uh-huh.
the business or administrative office is only open till 5.
the administrative office is only open to 5, so relative to those specific payment of fees and getting administrative services, those would not change. Okay.
Correct.
And Margie, I think you had your hand up, or you were going to say
Well,
something in
I
response to.
was just going to say, I like to have the hours in there, because we do get people who want something in writing. So whether they're printing it from the website, which this is on, or they're coming into the administrative office to get this, It's just more information, and it makes it clearer for them.
Trustee Verma.
Do we have any contact form when somebody wants a meeting room? So
We do.
means then that this, all the changes of the timing, it has to be before September 3rd? Because
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
this will be, this new timing will be from September 1 or September 3rd.
Correct?
So you should have your form also ready. If somebody comes after September 3rd, there, I want this room, so these dates or time should be there.
We're on it.
Plus your
Our website
pamphlet
will be
also,
corrected, so
your
pamphlets,
library pamphlet should also be changing.
Right, they're already
they're
working on
ready-
that.
They're ready to be printed.
Thank you.
Trustee Teasdale.
The clarity on this might also help, because Director Farkas said that she was getting a lot of well, not a lot, but more increase after hours rentals, and this will help communicate that also, and keep a clear line to add the additional cost.
Any other discussion, consideration? Okay. I have a motion. I have it seconded. We've discussed it. All in favor of adopting the changes to policy B3 and B4 as set forth in the agenda page to tonight's agenda? All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? None. The changes set forth in the agenda to policy B3 and B4 have been unanimously adopted by this board. Oh, I'm sorry, to my right. Okay, Trustee Margolis.
Mr. Chairman, without having to refer back to the committee, I'd like to make a request of staff that we get an updated policy book with all the clean policies that we've adopted over the last year.
We'll see that that happens.
Thank you.
I'm up to item 17 on my agenda. Somebody wants to move for an adjournment? Don't all at once. I'm convinced there was a motion to adjourn and it was seconded by somebody. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposition? We are adjourned. Unanimous.